All right, what's going on, everyone? Thanks for joining us on another episode of the Retic Lounge. We are really excited for our episode tonight. We have Blake Stewart with Stewart Designs on, and we are going to provide an extremely informative episode for you guys. You guys are going to learn about marketing, branding, and how to elevate and take your reptile breeding company to the next level to separate yourself from the rest. If you guys are listening on YouTube, don't forget to subscribe, hit that like button, and comment. For those of you that are subscribed, hit that notification button so that you know when we're uploading new content weekly every Friday. Don't forget, if you guys want to clean cages and you guys want to listen to our podcast, we are available on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. Nathan, take us into the most important part about this entire thing, which is USARK.
Yeah, we're sitting with the man behind the rebrand himself, so we would be foolish to skip over. But become a member of USARK today. Member numbers are the most important thing right now. Watch those newsletters and take action when necessary.
Blake, man, thanks so much for coming on. I know we've played a little back and forth and finally got you in the studio to do this episode. How's it going?
It's going great. Yeah, happy to be here, guys.
Awesome, man. So, I mean, if you don't mind, go ahead and just kind of introduce yourself, introduce Stewart Design, and just give us a little intro on that.
Sure. Yeah, my name is Blake Stewart, founder, principal of Stewart Design. We are a branding agency. We assist people with strategy development, verbal, visual branding. Been in business for just over 15 years and been working with quite a few people in the reptile industry for over the past 4 years.
Yeah. Do you mind? I mean, if you're comfortable with it, do you mind sharing just some of the names that you've worked with? Because I'm sure many of them, a lot of our listeners are going to recognize.
Yeah, sure. So we started out with Garrett Hartle of Reach Out Reptiles. So I've always been into animals myself, just all kinds of animals, growing up and as a child and so forth. Um, the first reptile that I had was a leucistic Texas rat snake, which I still have, and um, I wanted to pick up another one. So I started looking into kind of what options there were. I wanted something a little bit bigger, but not huge or anything. And that got me into some of the dwarf, super dwarf retics that I found out about. Looking at some of Garrett's YouTube videos and things like that, I then found out he actually only lives just about an hour away from me. So I gave him a call. I went up there. I met with him. I ended up getting a snake from him. And he also ended up hiring us to do the rebranding for Reach Out Reptiles. Before working with Garrett, I never had any idea of how much there was to the reptile industry. I never had been to any of the big shows, any RBC shows, reptile super shows, or anything like that. So after working with Garrett, we worked with a couple others. I think, Zach NAVA was one of the first ones. We redid Slither, Hysteria Exotic, Summit Serpents, Hell Creek Reptiles. Did, of course, the rebranding for USARK. We did Canova, Amos Reptiles. I know there's a handful of others I'm probably forgetting off the top of my head right now, but it's Cold Blooded Cafe. It's just been a really fun industry to get involved with because over the years, I mean we've worked with all kinds of different industries. We've done a lot of work with law firms, a lot of work within the construction industry, medical industry, whether it's chiropractors, dentists, things like that. And those kind of projects they pay well, but they get kind of boring after a while. You get kind of burnt out on working on so many different chiropractor offices or so many different law firms and everything. So in the reptile industry, I like I said, I enjoy the animals, so those are just projects I enjoy working on more. I like traveling to the shows, I like meeting people, I like seeing all the cool stuff there. So actually being into the work is important to me.
Totally. Couldn't agree more.
That's awesome. So you said you've been in for roughly about 15 years?
I started Stewart Design 15 years ago. Yeah, so
Okay.
I've also always just been into art my whole life. I graduated the graphic design program at West Virginia University. I started Stewart Design back in 2007, and been running the company ever since.
Cool.
Yeah.
So in Stewart Design, what kind of value do you think your branding and marketing is bringing to the reptile industry right now? Like, how is it setting people apart from the typical branding you've seen within the last 15 years?
Yeah, I mean, it's really the same as other industries. I mean, branding allows people to stand out from others and communicate their difference and why anyone else should care, right? So specifically within the reptile industry, I mean, it increases the professionalism for people. It helps add credibility. The majority of companies in the reptile industry are really terrible at their marketing. So, if you can do it right, then you'll definitely stand out.
Yeah. And just to recap on branding, it's putting something behind your, just more than just a company name, but it's actually making a name for yourself within an industry and being able to promote yourself in that way, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So, and for those of you that don't know, just to set the stage, we're not just bringing some random guy on. I know he introduced his experience with marketing and branding, but also you've won several different awards with Stewart Design, right? I know that you just won a graphic award design, so congrats on that with doing Coil Retic.
Mhm.
I know that you've won some other international awards too. So, with that being said, let me ask you why. So, in the reptile industry, because you're part of it and everything, why is it important for our listeners who want to get into breeding to stand out and separate themselves?
So, I mean, I guess first off, you can stand out either in a good way or a bad way, right?
Yeah.
So it's important to really distinguish yourself from everyone else, because there are many other people out there that simply just do what you do or sell what you sell. So,
Hmm.
the question is, why should anyone buy from you instead of anyone else? When branding is done right, I mean, it should attract the right people. It should reflect a business properly. It should make a company more memorable. It should build, that trust and credibility with their clients. And then on the other hand, if it's done poorly, of course, it can do the opposite. It can make you look amateur. It can actually deter business. So, the thing is, the more professional you look, the more credible you appear, the more people are going to trust you, and that leads to the more money they're willing to spend with you.
Yeah.
Without an effective brand, you're really only going to be connecting with a small percentage of the people that you could be connecting with, and therefore only making a fraction of the sales that you could be making.
Yeah, so definitely branding, separating yourself apart from the rest is going to make yourself stand out. And like you said, just bring in more revenue and income that you weren't being able to. So, uh, random question. What are some things in the reptile industry? I'm curious that you like to really target and focus on when it comes to branding.
So it all depends on the company, the individual, and so forth. I mean, some of the most important aspects of branding, which most people completely overlook, is the brand message. So in working, for instance, with Justin Canova, going through the workshops that we run of all of our new clients through that we all onboard and so forth, we really discovered his company is all about innovation, right? So they've created all these different world's first morphs and so forth. People spend all this money on these, rare morphs, these high-end animals to bring into their projects, to build their companies, to generate money for themselves and so forth. And so some of the different strap lines that we wrote for him were the snakes of tomorrow available today. It's a quick way to again communicate his value to people and why they should care. Some of the others are your next experiment begins here, or pioneering genetic innovation. And I mean, there's just a few off the top of my head that I remember, but there were over a dozen and so different strap lines that he can then incorporate into his ads and his branding and his marketing to make everything more effective. And
Yeah.
again, connect people with him. It's if you think of any major companies out there, an example I use a lot of the time when I talk to people is Nike. If you think of Nike's ads that you read and so forth, they don't talk about selling shoes and apparel, even though that is what they sell. Their ads focus on selling empowerment. Some of their messaging says, like, there's a greatness within you, or show them what crazy dreams can do, or be the hero you didn't have. Their whole strap line or tagline, just do it. They're saying, again, there's greatness within you. You can do this.
Yeah.
Another example, Coca-Cola, no one needs Coke. It provides zero nutritional or rational value, but what Coke focuses on selling is happiness by the bottle. So, all their commercials and ads, they show friends and family together, enjoying themselves at the movies, parties, barbecues, sporting events. They focus on that nostalgia. So that's something that, again, I think a lot of the people neglect, that is a big part of their business.
How that branding goes beyond just the logo. I think that's where a lot of people, especially in the reptile industry, get lost, is within the logo, and then not how the brand speaks to others.
Yeah. The logo is just a very small part of a brand. There are many visual components and verbal components to a brand.
Yeah. And it really stood out, kind of what you were saying, how your branding goes beyond just like the logo. But you mentioned some of those. I can't remember any off the top of my head, but we all know that Canova sells ball pythons, right? That's ultimately what they're doing. They're just selling snakes. But when you mention all those different phrases and slogans, motivate someone to start a new amazing high-end project, or to do science with their animals, right? So it's giving people the idea of like, yeah, I am buying a snake, but I'm also buying the future of ball pythons.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, so that's a very interesting take, and I agree. To what you and Nathan were talking about in terms of needing to separate yourself from the rest of the community, because even with Retics, everyone is getting into super dwarfs like hotcakes. And I can't blame them. They're amazing animals. They're a manageable size, highly intelligent, snake, and they're beautiful, different colors. Localities are rare. And so more people now than ever are spending big dollar on super dwarfs to start breeding. And I'll tell you what, if you don't do something to separate yourself from the rest in terms of how you promote yourself, you're going to be washed at sea with 1,000 other people that are doing the same thing.
Yep.
So I know this isn't what a lot of people like to talk about in terms of business, but what's kind of the general range someone in the reptile industry, or just someone approaching you, can expect to start out with for price on branding?
Can I also add to that?
Yeah, please.
I guess, like, so you can specifically say what you charge, but also want to know, like, in your experience of being in the industry, what's like an entry level price that some companies charge, and then what are higher end, more sophisticated companies charging, like, just to give the audience a general idea of like what it takes to get okay branding and marketing, and what it takes to get quality marketing.
Sure. Yeah, of course. So you have, all kinds of options when it comes to branding. You can start with, freelancers that can range in skill. You can go to cheap places like, Fiverr or 99 Designs or Upwork, where you can pay as little as a couple $100s or less. And then you have all the way up to the major branding agencies like Pentagram and CGH NYC, and companies like that. They won't take on branding projects for less than $250,000, and they go up from there. So sometimes multiple millions. We are actually one of the most highly awarded branding agencies in the U.S. I won't go into what we've won. It's all listed on our website. People can look it up and so forth.
People can see all the trophies behind you.
Yeah, it's a small fraction, but yeah, we won a lot of major national and international awards. In comparison to a lot of the other major agencies, honestly, we're a massive bargain. However, we are a lot more expensive than those cheap competition sites and crappy freelancers that simply provide you with a couple logo options and have you choose your favorite. The difference between us and, again, most others, as we talked about already, is we don't simply create logos. We build brands. And again, a logo is just a part of a brand. The majority of our projects are for companies that they've started off with something cheap and they've now reached a point where they realize it's holding them back, and then they hire us to help take them to that next level. We don't have any set packages or prices. Each proposal that we provide is going to be different for each client based off their specific needs. So the way that we work is we always start with an initial fit call, which is free, just to determine if we're even first off at all, just a good fit for each other or not. Um, if we are, the next step is a paid diagnostic workshop. It's a brief, about 2-hour workshop, but this provides us with really a thorough understanding of their business, what they're looking to solve or achieve, and it helps us determine if we can really help them or not. So if we can, we put together a plan of action and a custom proposal. We provide that to them, and then it's up to them if they want to move forward with that or not. So
Yeah. What I like about what you said about, what is it that they're trying to solve or achieve, we've spoken before. And I mean, even for some of you that like are you've been doing this for a while, or you haven't, but you're getting into it, some of the things that is required for a huge overhaul in branding in order for whoever you hire to kind of get into your psychology and be able to put that out there in a deliverable, sexy message for people, is you have to have an idea of like what your mission is. Like, what are you doing with breeding your reptiles? Like, what is your purpose? And for a lot of people, breeding reptiles are like, oh, I'm just going to stick reptiles together, sell babies. And so it really makes you look at yourself in the mirror, dig deep, and really find out like what you're all about and why you're doing what you're doing. And that's kind of what branding and the psychological aspect of it does, which I think is pretty awesome.
yeah, that's the whole point of our workshops. I mean, that's we're experts at bringing those kind of things out of people, and then helping put them together and bring clarity to their business in ways that they haven't thought about things before.
Yeah. And you mentioned the client and yourself being a good fit for each other. So what's something you're looking for, or what's all entailed for a client to be a good fit for Stewart Design?
Well, I mean, a rule of ours, first off, is that we're not going to take on a project unless we determine that we're able to create more value than whatever it is we're going to charge. So, first and foremost, they need to have a significant and measurable business problem that needs to be solved. We also require direct participation from all the decision makers throughout the entire engagement. And they also need to be eager to listen, learn, and of course take on action. So we start by developing people's brand message first, and strategy. So again, our projects begin with workshops, pretty intense workshops. The workshops can range anywhere between 8 to 16 hours. So, but the thing is, I mean, creating a logo without understanding why and how it needs to look, it's only going to hold a company back. We actually consider it malpractice. So what we need to do is clarify your goals, audience, and industry. We can then form your messaging. After that, we strategically determine like what colors, styles, fonts make the most sense to use, and then finally how the logo needs to look and function. You see, the visual identity of a company should really should be the natural result of proper strategy, because the question shouldn't be, do I like this? It should really be, will this work? Is this going to help my company? Is this going to, again, help me achieve these goals, solve these problems? So our job is to figure out what will actually work, and then provide people with an investment that will actually grow their business, not just create a pretty picture for them or anything.
So
Yeah.
as fun as it would be to just clean slate and build something up, it's not that. You want your customers to come with something in mind about what they're all about at a bare minimum.
Yeah, I mean, it's for us, it's not a beauty contest. Again,
Yep.
if people are looking for that, hey, there are plenty of other places you can go. They're going to be a lot cheaper than us. Use them.
Absolutely.
If you just
Yeah.
want somebody to, hey, here's 3, 4, 5 options, pick your favorite. Go for it. That's not what we do. In fact,
Yep.
most of the time we don't even provide our clients with all options. We go through the workshops, and then what we present, it shouldn't, it's never pick this or pick that. It should, the response that we want is, oh yeah, here's how it looks. Of course, this is how it should look and stuff. This is what we've talked about this whole time. This is what it's come down to, and so forth. I mean, it's not really about what people like. Again, it's about what works. So if a lot of the time, if people ask us, hey, what if we don't like what you put together? My answer a lot of the time is, it doesn't matter if you like it. It matters if it's going to actually work and achieve the goals that we've outlined and so forth.
Yeah. For whatever reason, it's bringing to mind Pimp My Ride, just the whole reveal at the end, going off, dusting off their shoulder.
Oh man, I forgot that was even a show. That's
I've
good.
actually met Exhibit and hung out with him a couple times.
Nice. I mean, so more than a pretty logo, and I kind of like the idea of like the logo's the very last thing because you're needing to get all this information. And so again, for even some of you guys that are listening that are new into breeding and you're wanting to make a business, right? Because I get people that message me and they're like, "Hey, where'd you get your logo done? What'd you do? You know, blah blah blah." It's one of those things where like even just the information that Blake is providing us right now, it's like instead of just thinking of a logo and coming up with it, like try to maybe put some thought behind it. Like what is it that you want to do and what message are you trying to portray, and then tell whoever's designing your logo to try to convey that. Because I couldn't agree more, because I see some, I mean, I get compliments on my logo all the time, but if you look at my logo and you know, if you haven't spoken to me personally or watched the podcast, you would know absolutely nothing about my passions for for what I do in the industry and how I separate myself apart. And so you know, branding is something that could definitely benefit me because yeah, my logo's cool and people notice it and it catches people's eye because of the lab and the flask and everything, but people don't know what my message is or what I'm trying to do in terms of locality, manageable snakes, that kind of thing, until they actually talk to me for 2 hours because I can talk forever. Um, so yeah, I think that's a really good component. So you can definitely go with a logo. It'll look cool. It'll be cheap, but is it actually helping you with bringing in revenue?
Yeah, and I'll add to that. I mean, again, a logo is again just a tool in the whole brand built and so forth, and it's just a part of it. People put much too much weight on it a lot of the time. I mean, when it comes down to it, I mean, the logo itself is really, I mean, trying to communicate as much as possible with as little as possible. But there's a lot that goes with that logo, to create that full brand. I mean, the logo itself, there are a few things that make that every effective logo needs to be. First, simplicity. I mean, the biggest mistake so many people make is they have too much detail in a logo. So if you remember Garrett's old logo, for instance, again,
Illustrative, yeah.
yeah, but
Yeah,
it was
it had
very
the
nice.
entire skyscraper of Pittsburgh behind you. You could
Yeah, it had this whole city skyline and all, very, very detailed. And that's why he, engaged us in rebranding Reach Out Reptiles, was because, he had realized that it was hard to work with. I mean, it was impossible to embroider, on a shirt. He couldn't print it small on things like a pen, it wouldn't be legible, didn't scale well or anything, So, and also the more detail, the harder it is for people to build up a brand recognition. You need something that's simple and clean so people can easily and quickly recognize it. I mean, think of like the Nike swoosh. Think of how simple that is. You show it to someone, you cover it up, and after they've looked at it for a second, they still have an idea of what they just saw, and they've never seen it before, and they can still redraw. It doesn't have to be that simple, but simplicity is a key element of what makes an effective logo. This the second thing is memorable. It needs to it shouldn't be like cliche, it shouldn't blend in with everyone else. I mentioned earlier that we've done a lot of branding for law firms. Most law firms, when they come to us, they have one of three things. They have the scales of justice, they have the gavel, or they have the pillars. So for that reason, those are three things that we'll never put in a law firm logo, because it defeats the whole purpose of what a logo is meant to do, which is meant to make you stand out and distinguish you from everyone else. Instead, it just makes you blend in and look like everyone else. That was also part of the reason that Justin had given us for rebranding, former JK Reptiles, or J. Cabalca Reptiles, sorry, and renaming it to Canova, because he just had this silhouette of a snake, which everyone uses. Morph Market uses it. All these different breeders. You go around the reptile shows, you'll see these silhouettes of snakes with company name beside them all over the place. It's over half the booths there, and the other thing too was it was his last name, Reptiles. And that also is something else that everyone does. It's, they use our last name and then it's either reptiles or exotics. And
Right.
so,
Guilty.
so again, he needed to distinguish himself from everyone else. Um, and then the third thing, I mean, it needs to be appropriate. I mean, it needs to have the right look and feel for the industry, that it's in, the audience it needs to attract, and so forth.
Do you get bonus points if it's inappropriate?
Well, it's not really helping you if it's inappropriate.
So I question for you. I know that you mentioned just one thing, if you could add more to this, but you mentioned how everybody just comes in with, their name and then exotics or reptiles or an initial in exotics. I'm guilty of that. I created live exotics in my mind when I was 9 years old. And that's the only reason why I stuck with it, just because it's something I want to do forever. But
I
I
will give
want to
you credit,
hear.
though. I mean, it's not exactly, it's not your name, though. I mean, it's initials and so forth and everything, but it's and it's playing off of, you're combining the whole.
The creation and the science,
Exactly.
right? Exactly. So I got that. That was like the marketing in me later, who was like, oh, I can turn this into be more than just Lucas A. Bagnera exotics.
Mhm.
Um, so you spoke to kind of one mistake about like what a lot of new breeders and people do in terms of naming their business, but I'd like to hear like 3 or 4 other of like some of the mistakes that a lot of new breeders come into the industry doing in terms of how they represent themselves or market themselves, or that you want to provide feedback on.
I don't know. I mean, I think the biggest thing is just settling. I mean, just thinking that the good is good enough, and it's not just retake breeders or even reptile breeders. I mean, it's the same with all kinds of businesses. The thing is, poor planning, positioning, promotion, they've really killed some of the world's best ideas. It's yeah.
So do you mind narrowing that down more to kind of focus in towards the reptile? So you were talking about just settling and focusing.
Well,
So
not
just
focusing. Yeah.
okay. So they're not focusing.
Mhm.
So in other words, kind of settling and having a focus and idea of what it is that you're trying to do.
Yeah, I mean, if some people, if they would just want to keep it as a side hobby, then great, But if they want to turn it into a real business and generate profit and grow and so forth, then I mean, they need to take it more seriously. Again, just look when you go to these shows. I mean, look at some of the people's displays and setups. I mean, some of them don't even have any signage up whatsoever, and then most of the ones that do have signage, again, just look terrible. So for the people that do it right, you can really, they can really stand
They
out
stand out.
from among everyone else. Um,
Yeah. So like just to kind of build and talk on that. So I know a lot of you people listening are new in this, and you've invested tens of thousands of dollars in animals and in caging and in all this stuff. And I'm telling you, at the end of the day, I promise there's someone right behind you that's spending double what you are on other quality animals. And so there will be, with the super dwarf and dwarf stuff in the next 5-6 years, a lot of people producing a lot of quality things. So I actually like the idea of if you, because at the end of the day, if you don't separate yourself and you don't have a name for yourself and you don't do anything to kind of brand yourself to look professional, again, like I said, you're going to blend in. But if you're not a name in the industry at all, but you spent a lot of money on animals and you have professional branding and marketing and a logo that goes with it and these slogans and things, at the very least are going to be like, don't know what he's done with snakes, but he looks professional as hell. And then that opens up the conversation for who are you? And that's where you get to sell yourself, your business, your names, which it sounds like with branding, you give them a lot of those, that mission statement and all that stuff that they can sell, that that you can sell that pitch and start to separate yourself. But because it's something in the back of my mind I'm always thinking about. I got in with the Superdorf and the locality stuff and at a time where it hadn't quite blown up as big as it is yet. And so I've had a little bit of an advantage of being able to get my name out there a little bit longer. But man, in 5, 6 years, I can tell you what, people are spending a lot more money than I have on animals. And I just bought a visual ocelot.
Mm-hmm.
So there's going to be people that are producing more expensive animals than me. So I think it's really important that you find a way to definitely separate yourself.
Yeah, I mean, just look at the ball python, side of the industry. I mean, there's thousands and thousands of ball python breeders, all over the place.
Yeah.
The dwarf and super dwarf stuff, it's definitely up and coming. And yeah, 5 years from now, I'm sure there's going to be many, many more. I'm sure nowhere near as many as ball python breeders, but still many, many more than the few people that are in the game right now. Yeah, I mean, you do need to stand out. Again, the branding, it helps, as I said earlier, with creating that professional look that adds credibility, which leads to people trusting you. And again, that leads to them trusting with you with their money also. There's a reason that people, when they're at shows, see an animal at, Canova's booth and, almost identical animal at a, booth across the aisle, and they'll pay twice as much for the animal from Canova than they will the other one, even though it's essentially the same animal,
Yeah, that's true.
And the same thing. I mean, I mentioned like Nike earlier. There's a reason people buy Nike and pay more for Nike clothes as opposed to just getting cheap gym clothes from, Target or Walmart that are
Yeah.
essentially the same quality. So,
That's so true. Um,
Yeah, you're paying for experience. You're paying to be part of something. It's
Mm.
bigger than just an animal. It's bigger than just a pair of shoes, whatever you're selling.
so, and I guess I want to know um, from your standpoint with your background, your history, and everything that you do, what like if you could leave our listeners with, you know, top 3 advice or the best things that you can offer and just kind of giving people a step in if they're starting a new business, what's a few things that you would tell them to do off the bat?
um, so, I guess, I mean, in my experience from working with people in the reptile industry, I mean, the most successful people, they focus really on what they love. So if a specific species or morph doesn't really appeal to you, don't just buy into it to make a profit. Focus on what you love, what you're passionate about. Second, I mean, it's again, from my experience working with all the people we've worked with, it's, I definitely believe it's better to have fewer, higher quality, more expensive animals as opposed to a higher quantity of cheaper animals. It's less work, less expenses on food, on supplies and things like that. And I mean, third, I guess, I mean, coming back around to the branding and so forth, I mean, investing in your animals is great and, of course, necessary, but be sure to also invest in your business as well, in building a brand that's going to actually help you grow, again, help you achieve your goals. So whether you hire us or any other professional branding agency, if you're not investing in cheap, low quality animals, then you shouldn't settle for a cheap, low quality brand. It's only going to hold you back. And when you do rebrand, eventually when you realize it is necessary, it's going to be much more expensive to redo everything. And not to mention, you're going to have missed out on a large percentage of business over the years, that you didn't have a proper brand in place. Because, of course, there's always, I mean, there's a high cost of not doing things right as well.
Yeah, that's totally true. I mean, and aside from a high cost of missing out on income, you're also investing all this money on your animals, caging, enclosures, feeding, and not, turning that around to be profitable.
Yeah.
And I think kind of the theme I've heard throughout the episode is I think the most solid investment you can make, even though these animals are great, you can make some good money with them, is yourself through and through with branding. Just back yourself up first.
I got goosebumps. I don't know if you can see them. That was beautiful.
My arm's too swollen for goosebumps.
That's pain. But yeah, no, I couldn't agree more. I mean, me being a therapist, I a lesson that I tell clients all the time, investing in yourself and over other people and those kind of things just kind of leads back towards that self-respect. And so definitely trusting yourself, investing in yourself, and elevating yourself to a degree with breeding reptiles. I think, Nathan, you hit it over the head. So Blake, if it's okay, I want to get away from kind of the marketing, branding conversation. I think we've given people a lot to consider, a lot to think about, a lot of good information. I kind of want to hear, so I know you keep retics. I know we've talked about your animals.
Yep.
How long have you been keeping retics for?
So again, it's been about 4 years, since I first met Garrett.
Okay, so 4 years, and how many retics do you have?
So I have a total of 27 animals. 26 of them are dwarf, super dwarf, and then I have the one leucistic Texas rat snake.
Okay.
Well,
Quite
actually, I will say I do have 2 mainland males, but there's no plans to breed them or anything like that.
What are they?
I have a really pretty looking, unique motley tiger, and then just a very awesome anthrax.
Oh, nice.
And so
You have an anthrax male that you're not planning on breeding. We're gonna talk after this, okay?
yeah, probably the best anthrax I've ever seen. Also,
Yeah, that's I love hearing that. So what are some of the super doors? So I mean, do you plan? I mean, you have 27 animals. Are your intentions to breed?
oh yeah, absolutely. I mean, it's my intentions aren't to turn it into a full-time business or anything like that. Obviously, I mean, I have all my time taken with my company already. Again, I like the animals. I got involved with them through Garrett initially. I have a number of animals through other people as well and so forth. But I decided to instead of just having 1 or 2 to get a few more to do some breeding. And sure, if it brings in some residual income on the side, then hey, why not?
Right.
I only have 2 females that are breeding age right now. So I have a sun tiger from Garrett who she was breeding last year. She's been breeding again this year already, but I haven't through palpating her, I haven't felt any follicles or anything like that developing. And then I have a 75% dwarf, super dwarf phantom that is gravid right now.
Awesome.
Okay. Awesome.
So,
So 75% phantom, you said?
yeah. So it was from Chris McVicker, and
Oh,
she's
I know.
50% Solaire and 25% super dwarf. And then I have a 75% phantom, Anery phantom from Garrett that isn't my animal, but is here on breeder loan. And they've been going at it for a while now. She is full of eggs, and she is also het Anery. So I'm really looking
And
forward to this.
that
And
I'm
again,
very excited.
those
that
75% super phantoms.
yeah, so that pairing, right? So that 50% Solaire, 25% super dwarf, that was the one of the pairing that Chris did this last season, and it produced or it was a sibling of it and produced it. It looked like clear as day in Anery. And I tracked down the super dwarf line to the person working with them, and there was no known Anery in that super dwarf line. And Garrett sold me the mom of those animals, that pure female Solaire, Gary Lawless Retic Ranch line female. And he told me, he's like, this line had these Mercuries or these pure Anery Solaires that came from wild caught pairs. And so after Chris McVicker hit that clutch, I'm trying to get an Anery male in with her, because if I have a 100%, if I have a pure Solaire that's het Anery, that's some mind blowing. So I'm super excited for you for that pairing. You might hit, you're gonna have super phantoms, you're gonna have possible Anery stuff that pops out of there. That's super exciting.
Yeah. I really like the look of the super phantoms. I mean, just those all white snakes. And again, that's the initial snake that I had, that leucistic Texas rat snake. And so yeah, I'm looking forward to that. I bought her off of Chris after she, last year she had her first clutch,
Yeah.
and so this one that she's grabbing with now is, will be her second. And there was only one Super Phantom from her first clutch that that he had. Which there were two. There was a female and a male. The female, he said, wasn't doing well from the very beginning and stuff, and didn't make
Yeah.
it. The male, I also have him. So of course he's just a little baby, but 75% Super Phantom.
Yeah. What's awesome about those animals as well, that the female that you have in that clutch, so he had two females from that clutch. He still has the other one, but what's crazy is that I know Chris doesn't feed lightly to keep animals small. And what's crazy is that these females are pretty mature. They're not 10 years old, but they're pretty mature. And there's some of the tiniest 50% Solayers that you'll see. Like they are incredible. Like he just pulled the sister off of a clutch, and she's tiny. Like she's smaller than some some high percentage super dwarf stuff at the same age.
Yeah. No. The Phantom that I have that's grabbing now. I mean, she's small. I mean, I'm not sure. I haven't weighed her exactly, but if I were to weigh her, I'd probably guess she's maybe around, I don't know, between 12 and 15 pounds.
Yeah,
So,
exactly.
yeah.
What do you care to, I mean, you have a lot of retics. Do you care to share any other projects that you're working on?
Yeah, I mean, like I said, there's nothing else I'm currently working on, because everything else still has some growing up to do. I don't.
You're ready. You're doing the plugging and playing though. Don't tell me you don't have your pairings planned
So there are
out.
certain projects that yeah. I mean, again, it's about working on what you like, what you're passionate about, right? So to me, I really like the look, like I said, of the Super Phantoms, the all white ones. I also like the all black ones, the Motley Golden Childs, the Anery Motley Golden Child specifically. Makes them even darker, and then some of that albino and snow stuff. So I think that stuff is just really vibrant, pretty, and I mean also that stuff always does sell well, and so
Yeah, those are all great projects to invest to.
Similar aspirations here.
yeah.
Working on some snow stuff, hopefully. I mean, we'd have to really hit the jackpot this year to hit snow, but down the line for sure. And then working towards Super Phantom stuff just the same. Saw Garrett's Super Phantom out at Tinley with you, and that thing was even better looking in person. I mean, you don't get to see all that kind of like lavender, almost purple backstrap that it has, but when you get it in your hand, you're like, oh shit, this thing has pattern.
Yeah.
That's really cool. I still haven't seen a Super Phantom in person, so I'm excited to be able to do that. I want to produce them myself as well. A lot of people are after the cow project, and I admire that. I love cows, but for me, I have a Phantom just because I want to focus on Super Phantoms if I do work with the Phantom. But I know I'm not gonna spill any beans. I know you have some very special projects that I am excited for, and so I'm excited to see what you produce in the future. And I think that it's pretty. I think everyone's pretty familiar of Stewart Design, but I'm excited to see when Stewart Design starts to start producing some retakes. Are you separating that? Are you just going to be Blake Stewart? How are you doing that, Mr.
Oh yeah,
Branding?
I definitely wouldn't do it through Stewart Design.
No. That'd be a tax crazy. That'd be a logistical nightmare.
No. I guess I'll let you in on I haven't told anyone else, but I did purchase the URL Snakes by Design, and
Nice.
so yeah, because that's it's about designing specific kind of snakes through the morphs and so forth, the genetics, and then
Stewart
ties in
Design.
with the design company.
Gosh, so
Extremely
that's
fitting.
just a little sample of the beauty that you get when you decide to work with Blake and invest in branding and marketing. Let me ask you this. I saw a video of one of our good friends, Spencer, getting rocked in the back of the head by one of your snakes in a walk-in room that you have a bunch of shelves and ropes. And if you don't mind, I'm actually going to have you send me pictures. And as you're talking about this, I'm going to upload pictures in here, but tell us a little bit about that room. It's freaking phenomenal.
Yeah. So to start that off, that snake that got Spencer is not one of mine. Every single one of my snakes are completely docile, and they would never ever bite anyone. I've taken all mine to the kids' school. They've asked me to set up like reptile field trips and stuff like that, and all the little kids are holding them and everything. I mean, none of them would ever do that. These were two snakes that I had got from someone else. Was holding for someone else while they were waiting on getting their cages in. And so I was like, they'd already purchased them. So I said, sure, I'll look after them for a little bit. And they were not used to being handled all that much and stuff. So I was trying to work with them and everything. But when Spencer was over here, he came by and wasn't paying attention and walked by it when it was one of the shelves, and it decided it got annoyed with him or something. Just quick little tag.
Yeah, I watched the whole video, and I was looking, and Spencer was just kind of minding his own business, and he was walking back and forth, and Spencer wasn't looking at that snake, and I don't blame him because it was super high up, but I'm looking at that snake and I'm like, oh, that body language looks like it's cocking back. It's probably
Yeah.
gonna strike, and then bam, it just like
It was, yeah. I mean, like I said, it's just it was a snake that's not used to being held, and it was nervous, and him pacing back and forth from it. Just finally, it was like, hey, get away from me.
yeah.
Yep, been there.
So tell us about that room a little bit.
Sure. So it's I mean, it's an addition I had built onto the house. Just just for the snake. So I have one room that has all the separate enclosures, in it. And then that room is connected to this new room that I had built, which is just a playroom for the snakes. So 12 by 12 foot room, and I think the ceilings are 8 or 9 foot tall, whatever. But and then I put in all kinds of different things for them just to exercise, crawl around in, because I just don't like keeping them, in the cages all the time. I want them to actually get out and move around and explore and be inquisitive and so forth. And they seem to really like it also. So I have ropes in there for them to climb up. I have rope ladders. I have different shelves on the or on the walls with holes that I drill through that they can all fit through and stuff. Just all kinds of different things to help add enrichment, to their life. I mean, if I were a snake personally, I wouldn't want to just be stuck in a 6 foot enclosure and taken out a couple times a week or anything like that. So I have a camera in there that in the mornings I can take a look at, and I mean, you can see how much they actually move. These aren't ball pythons. They don't just sit there. Retics are gonna explore if given the opportunity, and
Oh yeah.
and they do. I mean, they go all around that room, and it's just really cool to see. And it's interesting too, because each one of them, I found has like their specific spot that once they're done, and once they are tired, they just want to curl up in and go to rest. And so
That's
I have
awesome.
like these cat trees in there, and there are certain snakes that they have like their spot. Hey, I'm always going to be on this top one, and another one's always going to be on the middle one. The anthrax snake, for instance, there's this like little hammock off to the side of it, and every single morning when I come in, I know he's going to be right in there. No other spot.
That's awesome.
That's it. There's
I need to make sure that I get a hammock in my garage to make sure when I get him for some breedings that I can make him nice at home.
Yeah, there's I have a lavender albino motley, and there is this like a dog bed that I have in there. I have some just random things in there that they can also use to. I put it in there. I thought, hey, maybe someone will like to just curl up in it. She goes under it every single time. I mean, it's exactly where she is before you even walk in that room.
That's pretty awesome.
Yeah, so it's funny. I mean, they've all found their own spots and stuff. So yeah, I'll put them in there. I mean, sometimes 8 or 9 of them at a time and so forth. Never had any issues. I don't put 2 males in there together because I don't want to take a chance, of course, of them fighting or anything. But
Absolutely.
I'll put a whole bunch of females in there, and just again let them crawl around and have fun.
Nice. That kind of sounds like a lot of what I like my envision of what I see in the future. So eventually my family, we want to get a piece of land, build a house, and I want to have an outshed where I keep the snakes and I do my breeding there. And I wanted to have 2 separate rooms that were built within. And one of them is a walk-in full enclosure where I would rotate females in weekly. And then the other room be a kind of exactly, I mean, really the inspiration from was seeing your room and just having a jungle gym frenzy for the snakes to be in.
Yeah, I mean, I've seen online on some of the different Retic Facebook groups and things like that. I mean, I've seen some amazing things people have done. I mean, other people, I mean, they've well outdone me with my room and so forth. Some of the stuff I've seen. I mean, there's some really cool stuff out there. So,
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, again, I want the animals to live a good life and so forth. And I also think it helps. I mean, their temperament as well. I mean, mine. I do have a handful of them. I don't want to go over the number I'm at right now. It's plenty, but because I also do like to take them out again, handle them, let the kids handle them and stuff. And I think it helps their temperament. If they're also just enjoy their life more. I'll take them outside also. I've got a large yard, so I'll take them outside. And I've kind of learned that after about 4 or 5 days after I feed them is normally when they go to the bathroom. So if about that 4th day after I fed them, I'll take them outside. I'll let them crawl around. They'll just let it go in the yard, and that avoids having to clean the cage up. So that makes things also easier on me. So,
That's the best, man. I love during the time of the year here in Texas where I'm able to do that, but I probably only have about, unless I'm up, realistically, unless I'm up in the morning early to try to get as many out. But there's like a 3-4 month period of good weather in the afternoon where I can do that, and I try to take advantage of that as much as possible.
No, I swear that grass like stimulates them too.
Oh yeah. And I mean, it's they've learned really. I mean, that when I take them out there and stuff, I mean, most of them now, as soon as I put them down, they just go to the bathroom, and then they'll start crawling around and stuff. So they've kind of learned it. It's funny. I mean, the first snake that I got from Garrett, he will not ever go to the bathroom in his cage. I swear, he holds it in. Which, I mean, again, I can't blame him. I mean, I wouldn't want to be in a box, that I've,
You don't poo and peep your bed anymore?
What's that? Yeah, right. So, but he will hold it all the as long as it takes until I take him out, and then when I take him out, then he just lets it go. But he refuses to ever go to the bathroom in his cage, which is nice because I literally never have to clean his cage. So.
Yeah, that's insane. So after hearing that, I'm going to start taking like the little clicker that you use with dogs, try to see if I can use some positive and negative reinforcement with my retics to get them to. Yeah. That's pretty awesome. Okay, so if it's we're going to go and we're going to start to wrap this up, and we want to get into a rapid fire type of question style with you. So me and Nathan are going to alternate on these questions back and forth. And so we just want to hear your answers to these questions that we have for you. Fun, easygoing questions. You ready?
Sure.
All right. Number 1, favorite sport.
I grew up in England, so I mean, soccer, should be football, but
nice.
And then I play a lot of basketball too.
Okay, awesome. Number 2, favorite team. So what's your favorite basketball team and what's your favorite football team?
Yep.
So I'll be honest, I don't really watch sports. I love playing sports. I play basketball 2-3 times a week. I like mountain biking, weight training. I used to play a lot of soccer, but I had to, give up something with life. Yeah. So, kids take a lot of time. So, yeah. But I really don't watch any sports. I'll watch a World Cup when it comes around. And
yeah, well, it's World Cup time right now. So.
Yep, exactly. Yeah.
I don't want to talk about it.
Always rooting for England and the U.S. in the World Cup, but besides that, I really don't watch sports. Yeah.
Cool. All right, so dream reptile.
I mean, I have them.
Yeah, I feel the same.
Yeah.
Really, I feel a little bit differently.
I mean, there's 1 or 2 I could add, but every time I step in that room, I'm like, this is in my house.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. But tell me that an awesome croc monitor hanging out in your house wouldn't be amazing.
I don't got the
no.
Yeah, sorry.
No?
Yeah,
okay. All right. random question: cats or dogs?
Dogs, definitely.
Okay.
All right. Favorite alcoholic beverage?
Hmm. So I travel to Mexico a lot. I mean, I'm in Mexico probably about at least 4 times a year, and I used to hate tequila, you know, but a number of years ago, coming back from Mexico, you know, going through the airport, the duty free section, you know, where they give out all those free samples. Someone had, you know, someone asked me like, "Hey, would you like to try some tequila?" And I was like, "Oh, I don't like tequila." And they're like, "What do you mean you don't like tequila? You're in Mexico. You gotta like tequila here." And I was like, "No, I don't like it." And they're like, "Oh, you haven't had good tequila." And I was like, "Okay, let me try what you have." And they poured me some good tequila, and I have really got
That's what's in
into.
here.
Yep, I've really got into tequila since then. You can get some stuff in Mexico that is unlike anything in the States. And again,
I
there's
bet.
not really anything in the US that I've had that I like, but there are some really nice tequilas that I brought back from Mexico.
Yeah.
So that's probably my, yeah, I mean, that is my favorite. There's a couple different ones.
Do you
You know,
drink your tequila chilled or straight?
straight. Yeah.
Good.
Yeah.
And that's the way. So a lot of people in the States chill it, put it in the
No.
fridge, but anybody that you talk to, the way you're supposed to drink tequila is just like you would, scotch. It's not
Yeah.
refrigerated. It's not in the freezer. It's just nice. And
Yeah,
yeah.
some of the really nice tequilas. I mean, they don't. You know, the nice ones don't have any of that nasty afterbite that all the tequila in the states has. You know, it's just really smooth and I mean really
Yeah.
flavorful. And I'm not a big fan like the mezcal tequilas, like the smoked ones or anything.
No,
I like more the blancos and so forth myself. But
me too.
yeah,
100% agave. And that's where I start and where I finish.
yeah. But I do like some scotches too. I do like the more smoky scotch, even though I don't like the
Me
smoky
too.
tequila. So like the Ardbeg and you know, some of the Glenlivets
Have
and
you
so.
had Lefroy?
I'm not sure if I have or not.
Lefroy is a smoky from the Isla area
Oh, it's
in
from the
Scotland.
same area as the Ardbeg, right?
Yeah, in Lagavulin. Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Yeah,
Lefroy
yeah.
is a
There's a
great.
lot of the really smoky ones. Yeah.
Yeah, you get a bottle for $45 and it doesn't taste as good as like $100 bottle of Lagavulin, but it's right there.
Yeah. Yep. Yeah. I've got a lot of friends that are big bourbon connoisseurs, you know. And but I don't know. I'd rather sip on a nice tequila than a bourbon.
Yeah.
Me too these days for whatever reason.
Yeah.
Yeah. So so favorite band or favorite music.
Ooh. Um,
Clearly, Blake is busier than all of us. No favorite sport team, doesn't know favorite band. He's like, I listen to work.
yeah. I don't know. I mean, this will probably surprise you, but I like a lot of the kind of underground rap and the old school stuff.
Yeah. Like
So,
if someone asked me favorite band, I would say Outcast.
oh yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. So I hate all the new rap that's out there, all the mainstream stuff and all
Oh,
that.
it's terrible.
It's just horrible.
Yeah,
No, 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 no.
Yeah.
That's all it is.
I
Yeah.
like the underground stuff too. Aesop
Yeah,
Rock
I,
is
I
one
like
of
the
my favorites.
I like the stuff that actually has a message to it, you know,
Yeah,
instead
Right.
of just talking about the stereotypical cars, money, woman crap. You know, I mean, who gives a
Yeah.
shit? You know, but the stuff that actually, you know, has a message behind it and so forth.
yeah.
And some of the underground stuff, a lot of like the Immortal Technique and things
Nice.
like that. So
Okay, cool. All right. Next
All
question.
right. So
Go
favorite
for it.
morph.
super fan.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think.
I felt like I knew that one was coming.
Yep.
All right. Now, favorite locality.
So I don't know if I say I have a favorite locality. I mean, to me, you know, and this is a different direction than I know what you're in, of course, you know, because you know, are focusing on a lot of that locality specific stuff. Um, you know, with the stuff that I want to focus on is more so, you know, only working with the pure localities in order to up the percentages
Yeah.
and shrink down the sizes of some
Okay.
of the morphs that I like the looks of.
Okay. So your locality in terms for you, as long as small locality is gold.
Small, yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So Kalto, Karapa, Madu, those kind of things.
Yeah, yep.
Cool.
Cool. Same here. Any other questions you have for him, Lucas?
Substrate of choice.
Oh, Repti chip, of course.
Okay. Love it. Love
Yeah,
it.
no. JT puts out a great product, and yeah,
He lives in my backyard. His shop is 15 minutes away from me.
yeah. I use Repti chip in all my enclosures. Even the big 6 foot enclosures that I have, I don't put Repti chip in the whole thing because that would be a nightmare to try to, every time they go to the bathroom, clean up or spot clean or change the whole thing or anything like that. But what I do is so I'll put paper down like what most people do, but then I have a large tray that takes up the left half of the cage, and that tray has a height of about 2 inches to it, and I fill that whole tray up with Repti chip. And so the animals they will sit in that tray because they actually like sitting on that Repti chip, and they almost use it as a litter box. So if they're not going to the bathroom outside, then if I need to clean their cage, all I'm doing is pulling that tray out and then just changing the Repti chip out of that out of that tray.
That's a Retic hack right there. I'm
It
gonna give
is.
that a shot.
It is.
No,
I'll send you some photos of it, but that has cut down like cleaning time. I mean,
Man.
like crazy.
now, did you
So
get these like at Home Depot? Are they like cement mixing pans? What kind of pans are you getting?
sure. So the first time I actually had a sign shop here in town that I work with, through my design company that produces signs for people and stuff. I had them take some black PVC and just like what the animal plastics cages I have, are, and cut some trays that are the perfect size to fit in there.
Okay.
Um, but that can get kind of expensive. I mean, you're looking at like about $100 a tray doing it like that. Then I found at Tractor Supply they have I think they call them like rabbit cage inserts, and they use those. They slide in rabbit trays and so forth, and those work perfectly. Um, you know,
Awesome.
there's about like an inch or inch and a half of extra room around it, so they don't have the perfect fit that the PVC ones I had made do, but they work. Yeah, they work, and,
That
those are
Wow.
like I think like $15 a piece.
Okay.
all right. I know what my next purchase is.
Yep.
And I don't know why I never thought of that. That's genius. But yeah, I mean, on that note, I think that's all the rapid fire questions that we have for you, Blake. It was awesome having you on tonight. So I really appreciate you coming on. If you don't mind, go ahead and share where people can find you. We'll also put that in the description and link below, but go ahead and let them know.
Sure. So Stewart Design, the website is sdidentity.com, and that is the same for all our social media handles, Facebook, Instagram, so forth. Everything's at SD Identity. My email is blake@sdidentity.com, and our phone number is 855 SD Logos.
Awesome. Well, again, thank you so much for coming on. For those of you that have hung tight and have enjoyed this interview, don't forget to comment down below what your thoughts are on marketing, on branding, on logo design, all that good stuff. Engage with us in the comments. Thank you so much for liking and subscribing this. Again, we are also on Apple Podcasts and Spotify. And of course, don't forget, if you guys are wanting backseat access to our Patreon, that is patreon.com/The Retic Lounge. Go ahead and check it out. Come join. We have an awesome Discord channel that is extremely active and people wanting to better the Retic community and help all of us grow together.
That, and as well, just remember, become a member of USARK. Blake, thank you once again for taking this chunk of time out of your day. Appreciate you.
Absolutely. Happy to do so, guys. Yeah.
All right. Thanks so much for listening, everyone. You guys have a good one.